Hey everyone. All right. So today I'm gonna do a review on the Little Mermaid movie, and it's very interesting. I've got some movie stills, I guess, from here, and this movie I watched it yesterday. I did a review of the trailer another time, but this time I'm doing a review of the entire movie. Now I didn't watch the whole movie. You know how sometimes you watch a movie and it's kind of playing in the background, but you don't, you didn't get, I didn't see everything, right? That happens sometimes. So that's kind of how it is with this. So this isn't really a full movie review, but it is, I will talk about some of the things that I did see. And I think it's interesting. I was actually pleasantly surprised. I think it's, okay, so there's the two Ariels right there. There's, to the right, it's Halle Bailey, and to the left, I actually don't know what her name. I can't remember her name, but yeah, she's the one that did the voice for the younger Ariel. So, or well, they're both younger. What I mean is, the old or the cartoon Ariel, and so it's something Benson, I think, but I can't remember. But anyway, so yeah, I think she makes a cameo in this movie. So I guess in she's one of the land people, I think. So yeah, so I will talk about this film, um, and there are some things that I noticed about it. So, and these are just interesting scenes. First of all, I really like how a lot of it is similar, but then a lot of it is also very different. And so I kind of liked it, and in many ways, I kind of wish that they would have gone, you know, different. Been more comfortable with doing things differently. But um, but anyway, either way, we first off, let's talk about the visuals, right? Like the graphics, like Sebastian, and so here's Sebastian and Flounder. And honestly, I like the ultra realistic look. And I know some people think that it stops them from being as expressive. And while that is true, that they're not as expressive, I don't think we need to see their expressiveness because, because we can still emote without showing the face, and in some ways, I think that's, people want kind of a cartoon face on this, which is what most CGI does. They exaggerate their face so that it looks more like humans. But to be honest with you, I think it works fine to do it as long as we can see how their body moves and their body language. And as long as, as long as their body language sort of can portray the performance, I don't think you need it. So I don't have a problem with it, to be honest with you. This one and The Lion King, what's it called? The Lion King. Okay, there's Ursula. The Lion King live action, right? So any of these live action films, I didn't mind it at all. And I don't know, like I know it's different, but it doesn't matter to me. And also the graphics, you know, they didn't look too bad to me. And so here's a favorite scene of mine with these turtles. These turtles, I really like during the under the sea sequence, the musical sequence. I like this. They added this kind of turtle thing. Very nice. Like the little things they added, I almost wish they could have done more of it. And to be honest with you, it's kind of I really I really like how they added things to it, but also they made it something that you could something that was memorable. You could tell that they were trying to do memorable scenes, and so and that's what a lot of these a lot of what this movie does. Now, this specifically, I'll just talk about this. So, I talked about how a lot of these animals, they look realistic, right? And so with these animals, when there's large numbers of them, I noticed that they all kind of look the same. And even though, maybe there could be slight variations of color, right? Like most animals, even if even if they're the same kind, there's usually slight differences. But then not only that, but I also think maybe they could move slightly differently. You know what I mean? And not have them move in sync all the time. Even though, um, obviously, sometimes animals do. They do move in sync with each other a lot of times, and in sync, but not always. And I think when we're seeing dance sequences, I think it would have helped if it was a little more variation. And so that's that. And well, first of all, let's talk about one of the things that another thing I liked about this movie was the cinematography. So the cinematography is specifically this. This is a great example right here. So we see Ariel, right? And we see, look at the perspective, from the small item kind of looking into this giant. And this is something that Walt Disney could have done he could have done this in his films. And I don't usually see it, right? Like usually even in the movie like Pinocchio with, you usually see kind of a tiny Geppetto or a tiny Jiminy Cricket, right, next to a Pinocchio. But like you never see like a big towering Pinocchio, And so I would love to have seen this perspective. This is awesome how I think how this close-up shot sort of creates the illusion of a giant Ariel. And we see this also with King Triton and other examples where, when he's interacting with Sebastian. And so I love this effect. I hadn't seen it before, but I think it's wonderful. And I think, I don't understand, it's so clever how, it's one of my favorite things that they did. And these are the kinds of things that as a storyteller and as a cinematographer, cinematography means the way that something looks on a camera. And so I love the artistry that they brought into it by doing different perspectives like these. And, this is what makes movies special, right? So it doesn't have to have the best graphics. You don't need a big budget. You don't need any of that. If you can get creative, you can create something that is unique and awesome and is worth watching, right? And at the same time, you don't want to go too crazy with editing because really, it's not about editing either. I don't watch a movie just to see editing techniques. You want it to be seamless. You want it to be not noticeable. Actually, the best editor is an editor that you don't notice. So here's another example of just unique perspectives. And obviously with the animals, you can see that they're trying to do close-up shots because the animals, in the original cartoon version, they had like big faces and the camera was able to get really close on to the fish. But with this one, I feel like they struggled sort of capturing them, especially in this under the sea sequence. And so I think perhaps with the under the sea, they probably should have had just more quantity of animals, perhaps, of these sea animals, so that, it doesn't look, when I look at this, where's that picture? Oh, I can't find the picture. Yeah, this one. See, I think we could have got way more sea animals kind of from a distance. Yeah, it doesn't seem like as many. Because when you look at it from this perspective, it doesn't seem like there's that many. Because even though there's a lot, but they're so small. And so, I don't know. I guess it's not a big deal, of course. But I'm glad that they recreated it because it's such a special moment. And yeah, in fact, they recreated it pretty much exactly as the cartoon version portrays it, So wonderful opportunity. And I feel like with this movie, the Under the Sea, like if you remember the trailer, that's pretty much what they saw, like what they showed off. What they showcased was the Under the Sea stuff, which is great, but it's kind of like, it acts like a spoiler. And so anyway, so in a way, I kind of wish that they hadn't I don't know. Like in a trailer, when they make trailers, I prefer it if they don't give kind of the best parts, away. Like I would rather the trailer not show the best parts, even though so many trailers they do that, right? Especially like comedy trailers, where they put the best jokes on the they put the best jokes on the trailer, and then when you watch the movie, you're like, oh, it's there's Halle Bailey, and you think to yourself, oh man, this trailer is, kind of spoiled it, right? And so yeah, we're looking through pictures here. This right here, it looks very generic. Yeah, I thought the castle looked kind of generic. It doesn't even look like a castle. It literally looks like like a natural formation. So I don't know. I don't know if that was part. I didn't pay attention enough to know if that was part of what kind of the characteristic of the culture, right? Of Ariel's culture, but either way, I mean, I think this could have been a little more impressive, or, looked a little bit more like the cartoon version of it. The land sequences, yeah, I thought they were a little too long. I mean, personally, I prefer. It felt like, I don't know. It felt like a sequel almost, like maybe something that. I don't know. I don't think we needed to see them falling in love with each other. Because the reality is, it's, when you watch a movie, there's just not enough time to see how the process happens anyway. And most of the time, there's an instance where it happens. And so, maybe we didn't need to see all this. It feels like a dream sequence. It's too, but I don't know. That's just my view. What do you all think? So there it is. And then now my next criticism, or my next issue, I guess I really did like Melissa McCarthy. So she did a great job. Obviously a very talented actor. And the thing is, a great performance. She, as an actress, she is able to, portray the character with full force. But I felt like it was a little too aggressive, as we see in this picture. Like, and you got to be careful, because when you're playing, like I guess what I'm saying, it almost felt like like it was almost comically villainous is how I would describe it. And I felt like it was a little too, it was too ham-fisted, too, like, I don't know, she just seemed a little too aggressive, and I think she lacked the persuasiveness and the appeal and attractiveness. And I don't mean that in a sense like, Melissa McCarthy, she's pretty, right? Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? As I've said in another video. So there's not a problem with her looks, but it's more her attractiveness in a literal sense, not in the physicality sense of the word, not in the word of physical attractiveness, but more attractiveness in terms of she needs to be able to bring people to her. And I felt like this histrionic, sort of extremely overpowered, and she also spoke with kind of a rougher voice, rougher than I think, I don't know if Melissa McCarthy speaks that way, but like rougher than I think she normally does. And so, but I don't think that's very persuasive. And for someone like, a young, like Ariel, I mean, would she really, I feel like she would have just walked away if it's almost kind of too scary to see someone react this way. And also, I don't know that we see a reason for Ursula to be so sort of overwrought, so sort of powered by, so taken by passions, taken by the passion, so passionate about something, on the first meeting, right? Because really they're meeting each other for the first time when she is singing, and this is during the, what's it called? During the Unfortunate Souls, right? Poor Unfortunate Souls music sequence. So I do think Melissa McCarthy is a great choice. I mean, she's a beautiful person, right? In terms of looks and everything. I mean, she probably could have played Ariel, right? In some other version of the movie, maybe. Like, I don't see why not. But the thing is, I felt like for this story, Ursula was a little too aggressive. I would have preferred. I feel like the original Ursula is was a little more, had more appeal. You know, she was softer in some ways, and in a way that made her more scarier. And so I think something that people don't realize is that, you know, for a woman can be scarier if she's more kind of passionate, but in a different way. Like, obviously you want to see passion, but it doesn't have to be kind of this rough, like, superhero Hulk version of, you know, passion. And I feel like that's one of the things that a lot of these movies nowadays, everyone is like a superhero. And that's how I would describe sort of Ursula's performance. It's kind of like a superhero performance. You know, this bam, let me just, you know, squash everything, you know, kind of like the Hulk, right? Or like, and so like a Marvel superhero that's just destroying everything. And a lot of times they end up all kind of acting the same. And it's very, I don't know. I think that may have influenced this. And I also think that, you know, you don't need to do that to be powerful. You don't need to do, a woman doesn't have to do all that to be extremely scary. I think a good example of this, it would be like, I mean, think of how crazy, for example, Cruella de Vil is in the cartoon version of 101 Dalmatians. Like, so, like, she's crazy, but it's like, but she's able to dominate. She's a boss. And so, and I feel like with Ursula, it feels like she lacks control. If she's too, I don't know, if like because usually when people are powerful, when people are intelligent, which I know Ursula is, right? They usually are actually calm, believe it or not. So you got to be really careful with how you do it. And, you know, maybe that's how they wanted to do it. But I feel like, I don't know, I feel like it may have gone, you know, so something like this with the heart, I'm not sure why. And sometimes she would switch to this kind of sweet side every once in a while, but it kind of confused me. And I kind of, yeah, so like I said, even though I do respect and like Melissa McCarthy, and she's a great, like I said, performer, but then, yeah, so I like that. And the performances from all of them were well, specifically Ariel, you know, so I do like it, but I felt like I didn't quite understand why you had to be this aggressive to be aggressive, if that makes sense. If you want to be, you can be powerful and scary without having, you know, you don't have to be rough and gruff to do that. There are other ways to do that, and I wish kind of you know, we would see that, and in a way that fits the movie a little better too, because this movie is really about, you know, sort of a Ariel kind of exploring the world. And so yeah, it would have been wonderful to see sort of you know, it's all about emotions, you know, it's not really about actions. And that's one thing I noticed too about The Little Mermaid. It doesn't require all these action sequences, which I love. As a princess movie, that's awesome, because it doesn't require action, right? It's all about the emotions. And so that, you know, it would have been awesome to see that. You want to see the cerebral, kind of the mental strength, and that comes from, like, so like, I guess if you're asking more specifics, like, you know, perhaps it could have been more with shrieks and screams and kind of, but more kind of softer. It doesn't have to be so sort of rough. It can be kind of, and you can also use eyes and kind of almost hypnotize people, right? There's something hypnotizing about, entrancing about, for example, Cruella de Vil in the cartoon version of 101 Dalmatians. And so this is, you know, there are different techniques that I think a woman can use that is different, or that anybody can use, actually. It could be a man too. But, like, it doesn't always have to be kind of this Hulk, you know, trying to be larger than life, because she really isn't that larger than life anyway, right? Like, I mean, you know, the reason why the Hulk acts the way the Hulk does is because, you know, it's just this big sort of, you know, turns into a big monster. But really, I don't even think, what's her name? I don't think Ursula's even that big anyway. Like, it's not, yeah. So in a way, you know, there are other ways that they could have made. And they move so fast too. That's another thing. Like how fast, because of the CGI, a lot of the things here, it's moving too fast, and it kind of she kind of loses weight. Actually, she seems like this floating ghost or something, like super fast to the point where I don't know. Like maybe that's another reason why there was more of a sort of a big difference, more of a distance, more of a contrast between, so I think it would have been a little more, I don't know, I would have preferred a different, I guess I would have preferred a different performance that wasn't so rough, and it just seems like Ursula was always angry, and that it just made her not, I just don't know if Ariel would have really, or if anybody would entertain it, right? Like, why would anybody be around that? You would be scared off, and so yeah, that's my thoughts on that. But I still think, Melissa McCarthy was great. So as far as like she did, her interpretation, obviously a very talented actor, very talented actress, able to perform, right? Everyone did sort of a good job, and apparently there's a lot of theater in this, and you can see this, the kind of theater people, when you look at this looks like a theater sequence. So there's something unrealistic about it that in a movie, I don't think necessarily we need this, but it works. It works. I'm not, I would have preferred probably a more realistic, because in real life, they probably would have ignored her. They wouldn't be, this is supposed to be a wedding, but like everywhere they go in the town, it felt like a dream sequence. Everyone was just smiley. It almost didn't feel like it was real. But maybe that's how it's supposed to be. I don't know. Maybe it's supposed to be impressionistic in that way. Impressionistic means when something is not realistic, but it's being done in a way to make you feel the same way they felt. But then, at the same time, whose perspective is this from? Is this from the prince's perspective? Or is this from Ariel's perspective? Because I feel like Ariel would have probably been a little more scared. But I don't know. Like, that's... it's still interesting, but I like I said, I felt like they were too long a little bit. So now, let's talk about the other issue. So the other issue I really had with this film is... let's go back to Sebastian. Where is he? Sebastian, and this is a nice picture. I guess it looks like a promo or something. But yeah, let's go back to Flounder and Sebastian. And first of all, I like how they look. We talked about that already. But the thing with Sebastian and Flounder is I also felt like they were a little weird as characters. The dialogue was strange. That's one thing that caught my eye. Or I should say, yeah, caught my eyes and my ears. Because it's very strange dialogue. Like, they're always kind of narrating what's happening. And it's not just Sebastian, but we saw where Sebastian will say, like, exactly what Ariel is going to do. Like, it's almost like they turned him into the narrator. And I don't know, this is a problem as in the storytelling, because there's a concept in storytelling that's called show and don't tell, right? And in this case, I felt like they were telling. And they were trying to tell us what's supposed to be happening in a story instead of showing us what's happening. Like, you don't need Sebastian and what's his name? The father, right? King Triton, right? Or is that his name? King Triton, or whatever his name is. Whatever, you don't need them sort of narrating what's happening or saying exactly what Ariel is going to do, or, oh, we need to do this, and then they show that, right? Or they'll say, for example, the one that stands out the most was when, and I think both of them said this, like, King Triton said it when he called Ariel, and he's like, oh yeah, Ariel is, she's very strong-headed, and then they had Sebastian say something similar, like, yes, she's a strong-headed woman. Like, first off, most people wouldn't talk like that, right? Like, you wouldn't use such a defined and descriptive word. And even if this is the original kind of the intention that they're going for the film, like, we still don't need them to spell it out for us, right? almost as if they're trying to make it official. Like they're trying to like have people, make no mistake. She is supposed to be a strong-headed woman, right? Like, or whatever. She's supposed to be strong-headed. She's supposed to be like whatever it is. Like, and the thing is, like, you shouldn't have to tell us, right? Like, we should be able to tell just by looking at the film. The idea of showing and not telling, right? So, and what that means is that you don't have to, if an artist does a good job, like you should be able to, it should be open-ended enough that we can kind of tell, we can look. And in fact, I would go so far as to say that it gives us the opportunity, let us play with it. And the way you do that is by just showing us what happened and let us decide what we're watching, right? Because I might disagree, actually. Maybe I don't think she's strong-headed, right? Maybe I don't think she's that brave. I mean, after all, isn't her father kind of, her father's telling her to do things and, she's completely controlled by, and so I don't know. Like, I just don't know that it gives them too much power. You're giving too much power to certain characters when you make them kind of the narrators of what's happening. And really, like, because it's a bad case. Like, how a bad actor is an actor that kind of just, that doesn't react? And in the same way, this story is not allowing for the characters to react properly. So Ariel is not reacting. Like, Ariel is smart enough. She should be smart. If she is an intelligent person, but I think she is meant to be an intelligent person, right? But if Ariel truly is intelligent, she should know that Sebastian is watching her. And she should know that her father is also watching her. And so she's not going to... So she's going to take that into account when she makes a decision. It's not like everything that Sebastian thinks. And it's crazy to me how they made it seem as if, even though the storyline obviously doesn't follow this path, because the storyline does clearly have her, doing what she wants. But the problem is, for some reason, they have them always second guessing exactly what she's going to do. All right, like Sebastian is like, oh yeah, now she's in love, now she's this. Like, they're explaining the entire movie. They're telling instead of showing us. And the thing is, usually if she's smart, Ariel would be able to, why would she tell them, right? She wouldn't want them. They don't have to know. And the other thing too, it's almost like they're omniscient. Like they know what's happening. Like, how can he say anything with a certainty like that? Even if he could, right? There's no way that they could be right all the time, right? So in a way, if anything, it makes both Sebastian and the father, I guess, the King Triton, it makes them kind of, I guess they're very limited in their thinking, because they get an idea and they just run with it. But really, how are they supposed to know for sure, right? It's not like they asked her. So how do they know for sure that what they're thinking is correct? And so in that sense, all of a sudden we're like questioning the movie itself. And even though it's supposed to be official, I think it is supposed to be official. We're supposed to take what they say for granted, right? Take it as a given. But the reality is, maybe we shouldn't, because the truth is, Ariel would be able to outsmart the most intelligent people, unless a person is completely helpless, like they're not independent at all, like they can't think or do things for themselves. For the most part, most people are smart enough to be able to think ahead, and in fact, a very intelligent person can think 2 or 3 steps ahead and, sort of play chess, or more, even more complex than that. And not have, the reality is, a true person who is successful and not have the other person ever know why they did what they did. And we should be able to see that. We deserve to see that with this Ariel, and not have all the characters know what's happening anyway, right? We know what's happening, but why do the characters know? See, so then that's an example of showing and not telling. And of course, the other idea is that it also takes away our ability, by doing this. The film is actually, it's almost as if it's almost like they don't want us to think for ourselves. In a weird way. Like, it's almost like some of these movies are trying to tell people what to think about the movie. Like, you don't need to tell us what, it's like they're trying to tell us, like, oh, well, this is what the movie is about. And it's like, do you have to have a character say that? right? I know that in like the Harry Potter books, right? Like J.K. Rowling, she would have Hermione and Dumbledore do that, and they would kind of narrate what happens. And I feel like that may have been a bad influence because people think like, oh, Harry Potter's a great movie or a great book, right? So we got to, that's an element that J.K. Rowling put in. But the reality is J.K. Rowling did that because the books were for younger people, okay? That's why she did it. And it's actually not, I don't consider the Harry Potter books to be, they're, I mean, the thing is, it's not what a normal book shouldn't have that. They shouldn't have a Hermione or Dumbledore saying exactly what happened. And in this case, so what I'm saying is that's not what normally it shouldn't be what's happening. And yet now, because these books have, because the movies have become so popular, it's almost like people have assumed that is the way to do it. Like, no, like that was an exception. Like the reason why, yeah, J.K. Rowling did it because it was a book for a younger audience. But for a normally, you wouldn't. It's just bad storytelling. And I guess if you want to be like strict about it, I guess you could say that it's for younger people, but it's not a good story. It's not a good storytelling device. It's not something that needed to be said, right? It was an example of something that was but that was not good in my view as a storytelling because you don't need to do that. But, that's just, but obviously but maybe, it shouldn't have been held to the same standards, right? Like you wouldn't, like whatever, like nobody is saying, I don't think anybody is saying that Harry Potter is like Shakespeare because I don't, right? I don't consider it to be at that level. I don't consider it to be at that level. But anyway, even though they're good books, but, it's not, it's not exactly, and I wonder if movies might be influenced by that, where it's kind of, we want to show and not tell, and let people decide for themselves. And for some reason, it seems like these movies are afraid of allowing us to just come up with our own interpretations. And I'm not sure why, right? Like, don't you want people to, come up, why watch a movie and then have them tell us exactly what, like, this is, kind of the interpretation. And what's weird is it's gotten to the point where it's actually inconsistent because sometimes you'll watch a movie and you'll say, wait a minute, that's not, they're all saying this, but actually when I'm seeing them, it's not even exactly anyway, right? It's not exact. And then, but a lot of times it is exactly what they're saying. And that makes it like, what's the point of watching the movie, right? It's just not how reality happens, right? Like humans, they're not predictable, and that's not something that's not a bad thing, and Ariel is a complex person, and Ariel, that's what makes her an interesting character, is that she's changing her life. She's changing the path of her life, that sort of, because with her decisions, that's what kind of creates, I think, and I know there's, even like science, they're talking about free will, but I think free will, as far as, I kind of do, I don't know, I don't want to get into a discussion of free will, but I do think that, we do have the power to change and use intellect. That one of the things that humans have that's different is that we don't just act on instinct, but in fact, and on stimuli, but in fact, we're able to change and we're able to understand. And Ariel is smart enough to understand that, hey, Sebastian's following me, my father's following me, so she wouldn't just, so she's throwing them off, right? And she knows what's happening. And so I think an intelligent person would be able to not only go against what they're doing, but also do it in a way that's successful. And that's exactly what she's done, isn't it? Like in the end, she's succeeded. She's found a way to success, right? By meeting the prince, right? The prince is not really, I mean, it's a bounty, right? It's right. He's a successful person. The prince is successful. Like Ariel is doing a great job, actually, right? You would be proud if your daughter did that. So it's kind of crazy, right? When you think about it, almost the movie kind of doesn't make sense. And then it makes even less sense when you see kind of these characters sort of understanding exactly what she's doing as she's doing it, like somehow, where I think it would be better if they shouldn't know and Ariel should still succeed, because she is succeeding in her own way. And so, yeah, it's always weird. I've always felt like that was a weird. Maybe that's more of a story, like just the story itself, because this is a Disney version, right? The Disney version of the Little Mermaid, and so it's different from the original Hans Christian Andersen version, which is the author, right? So it's different. So we're really judging it by what Disney chose to, how Disney chose to create the story. But really, in a way, you could argue that it's kind of a weird story to begin with, because like it's not like Ariel is doing something like bad. She's actually doing like exactly what a parent would want their child to do. Like, it's just weird. You know what I mean? Like, you want your daughter to marry a successful person. Like, what's the problem? Like, I don't know. It's kind of weird. Kind of a weird story when you think of it that way. But like it's just kind of a no-brainer in a way. I don't know where is the controversy, right? And so, but like I said, but the issue I had with this is more the telling, right? You're telling us, you're trying to tell us exactly what's happening, and just let us figure it out on our own, right? And let us, the audience, let us play with it, because that's what makes stories great, is when they're open-ended and you're able to interpret it in multiple ways, right? And you don't have to do it one way or another. You can think of it in so many ways, and each of us can find a different. And what's wrong with that? Like, why should we be threatened? And why should the creators and the artists that are making these films, why do they not want to promote that, right? Like, what's wrong with, like, I wish that they would kind of encourage that. And the way you do that is by making stories that are open-ended and that kind of give people the opportunity to play with it, right? Because by doing, otherwise, by telling us exactly what it is, it's kind of like they're trying to nudge us in a direction, like, look, this is what's happening, this is what it is, and then it makes it so that the story is either not as complex as it could be, or that it's like they don't trust us. They don't, or they, like I said, they don't trust us to come up with our own. And so I'm not sure. Like, isn't that, yeah, like it. So now the other thing too I wanted to say. So otherwise, the underwater sequences, I really like the underwater effects, right? Like, it doesn't look bad to me. A lot of people, they criticize this, and I'm kind of disappointed, because people were were saying all over that, oh, this is a horrible movie, the graphics are bad. But really, the graphics are not bad. I didn't think the graphics were bad at all. Like, it fits. And, the truth is, like, you don't need, I mean, this movie came out around the same time that Avatar 2, Way of the Water, came out. And so, and that movie is, obviously they had some, extreme effects going on with it. And I can understand why people were, perhaps wanting that kind of budget. But, I would argue that, maybe that's like, yes, it is spectacular because it's something we haven't seen before. But is it really necessary for every movie, or especially with this movie? And I would argue no. Like this, we really don't need. Like, graphics don't matter, right? Like, a lot of the greatest movies, the movies that you see from the 80s, right? A lot of these, I don't know if you could say greatest. I guess that's a judgment call. But really, any movie, really, like, it doesn't require good graphics, right? The Terminator, Alien, or, the E.T. or whatever. A lot of these films, Indiana Jones, these are great films that had horrible graphics, right? And it's actually kind of disappointing when they come out with enhanced versions of it, because really, even the original version is fine. Like, because it shows that it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Graphics don't matter to make a good movie. And so in this case, and especially this, like, it's trying to tell a story, and you don't need good graphics. Like, graphics don't have to be amazing to appreciate something. Like, it's like video games. When you play video games, graphics, they don't matter. And I don't understand, like, as a society, it's taken a hold on us. But to be honest with you, I'm kind of disappointed that so many reviews, they were like, oh yeah, it looks cheap. But, like, the truth is, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't care about graphics. You can make it work with bad graphics, right? Like, Jurassic Park, when it came out, had horrible graphics, and I wish that we could see them too. And they're always trying to hide that. Why? Why do they keep coming up with enhanced? I actually am a purist when it comes to film, And I would rather see the original Star Wars with all the strings. Like, it was horrible. Like, the shoestring budget, like the original Star Wars, you could see like the string hanging on the airplanes and on the model airplanes, and you could see like it actually looked really bad. But that's okay, because it proves that the performance and the acting is why we're watching. It doesn't matter. The graphics don't matter. Graphics don't make a movie great. And I don't understand why people, they think that, well, if you can just enhance it, or if you can, well, let's make it better, quote unquote. But really, the original intent and the original creation is usually the best way to go with it. When that's true with animation, that's true with any of these visual effects, right? It's better, even if it's bad visual effects or it looks bad to our eyes, it doesn't matter. Like, at the end of the day, it's telling a story and it's part of this world. Literally, this is the world, and this is how the world is. This is how the world is, and this is how her world is. So you can believe it. I mean, if you think about it, when you're watching this movie, you should be thinking to yourself, this is how it looks. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to look like Avatar 2, right? That it doesn't have to look like that. And and certainly doesn't have to look like that to be a great movie. And so never allow graphics. Graphics don't matter. That's just how I think of it. It doesn't. You could have an awesome movie with like horrible graphics. Some of my favorite movies have horrible graphics, and you know what? They're way better than the movies that have amazing graphics. Absolutely. And I would say that about video games too, right? It just doesn't matter. I wish that would become part of our social consciousness, right? So like, I thought the underwater scenes were okay. I thought the movie looked great. I thought her voice was great. Okay, so Halle Bailey did a really good job. I love how the voice is different. How her voice was interesting because I like how usually the ending, I guess, the part of your world, right? I love her reprise. I think it's the reprise where, it's amazing. You see it in the trailer, how she sings those final notes. Like, it is, in a way, I kind of like it better than the original. I mean, it's hard to say, right? I really like both of them. But like the, Ariel or Halle Bailey, just a great voice. I wish that her songs were a little more, she had a fuller voice while she was singing the songs. Because a lot of times at the beginning, she would sing really softly and then at crescendo into this big kind of finale. I wish that it had just been a little more fuller from the beginning, similar to how the original Little Mermaid was sung. Because in the original Little Mermaid, it was a little more balanced in that way, right? She always sung in a consistent way. So in a way, I guess that's just a different style that they went with. A little more flourishing. It's very hard to sing along to it with the Halle Bailey version, but that doesn't matter. And I said this before in my other review of the trailer, because I did a trailer review. So this one is kind of and I said this, which was that it's harder to sing along with the Halle Bailey version. So some people might say, well, it's not as good, but the thing is, I don't mind, because her voice is so good and able. Like, I don't think a singer should limit themselves. If you're an operatic singer and you can do it, do it. And so I say kudos to Halle Bailey, and do all the flourishes, do as much as you can, even if people can't sing along with it, because I think in the end, it works. It works out, and so in a way, I do like it better. I think so. The notes and the singing, were awesome, and in many ways better, enhanced, different. I like that it's different and better, and so really the only issue was that sometimes the composition in the, like I said, like in Part of Your World, for example, it's kind of quiet and slow, and if it had been just like a full voice, I would go so far as to say that it's as good or better than the original, So that's my only criticism, was the kind of the softness of a lot of these songs. I feel like they the voices don't sound quite as like they were. It's like they were singing a little softer, right? In all of them, actually. But like I think if they had been a little more consistent there, it would have been better. But as far as like the notes themselves, like very impressive. Like in fact, I would say better, right? Like the part of your world at the end. I mean, extremely. So I love that they added that sort of. So I guess what I'm saying is that I really liked Halle Bailey's voice. Obviously, great, a good casting, and as far as like Sebastian, a good voice too, and once again different. You know, when he was singing Under the Sea, Sebastian did a great job. So the voice acting was pretty good. I really liked it. And so in this film, even though I didn't see this film, so you know when I was watching this, I was kind of watching it in the background, so I didn't get to see all of it. So I can't give you kind of a full review. Maybe later on, if you guys really like this video, I can give you the full review. Because I didn't really pay attention. There was just some things that I did pay attention to, and that's what I'm kind of alluding to and talking about here. And here is Ariel. Okay, kind of this cute Ariel. Yeah, this kind of dorky, I guess what they call dork, the dork kind of dorky. A lot of people have talked about how the Disney princesses have turned this way, which is okay, and I think it's great. In a way, I think Halle probably should have been a little weirder. You know, like remember when you're playing these characters, you don't have to play as yourself, and so that's one thing that if Halle, if she ever acts, don't play as yourself. You know, I know oftentimes people love to do that for some reason, whether it's music or movies. For some reason, they like to see the actor or the performer kind of be themselves, and I don't think that's how art should be. And in a way, I would have liked a little more dorkiness, I guess is what I'm saying. I would have liked it if she had been a little weirder, if she had gotten out of her comfort zone and been something completely different, and from who she might actually be, right? And so in that sense, but that's more, Halle Bailey. If she's already a great actor, she's a great model. Like she looks great. So many of the scenes, her smiles and the way that she did a really good job, is what I'm saying, of creating like these cute moments. And it would have been great if we had just seen more of that. That would have been kind of one thing I would have loved more of this, basically. More, there's a lot of it, but I guess I'm saying I would have loved more. And so I'm glad that, like, overall this film, it was good. I thought it's weird to me, all the criticism that it's gotten, but like, really, it wasn't that bad, although I did give some of the weird stuff, right? The dialogue was weird. I did say that. So, but then as far as like, but as far as there was a lot of good going on in this. Now, maybe someday I'll do a full review of this movie, but like, but for now, overall, I liked the way it looked. I liked the weird, realistic animals. Like, I liked, it was okay. It was pretty good, actually. I thought they all did well. So thank you. So if you guys like this, I could do another review. And I want to thank, obviously Melissa McCarthy. Thank you, Halle Bailey. Thanks for doing a great job. And the rest of the cast. Oh, I also thought Sebastian was really good too. Like the voice, right? Just the way that Sebastian sung Under the Sea. I thought it just sounded natural. And I also liked how their personalities were accentuated. That's another thing too. I liked how Sebastian was like Sebastian. I like the characterizations were really good, actually. And that's why I'm saying, whether it's Flounder or Sebastian, or I would have liked it if their characters were so exaggerated that you really didn't need the narration. And, that kind of proves my point. You didn't need them to tell the story. We can clearly tell what they're doing and what their motivations are just by looking at how they behave, because it's so good, which it was. So I do like that. I like that they made Sebastian just kind of scared, obsequious and like serving, servile creature always. I really liked it. Like, he was actually a great character, the way once again, different from what you normally see. And I love the same thing with Flounder. Flounder was kind of this aloof, but same thing. I love the contrast of the personalities. The personalities were great, actually. So it's not really the personalities. It was more the dialogue that was a little weird. And, maybe just show and not tell, right? Now it doesn't always have to be that way, right? Because I believe that art should be, whatever you want it to be, right? So you can break the rules if you want, but do it for a good reason, I guess is what I'm saying. And, that's just how I would say. And I guess I question how a lot of movies nowadays tend to do that. And so it's really more of me just kind of trying to buck the trend and not, but, at the same time, that doesn't mean that I think that it should be one way. Do you know what I mean? Like art, I don't want people to think that when I say these things that you can't ever do, what I just said that I don't like. No, I think you can. It's just that give me a good reason for why you want to do it. So really, a book and a story can be told however you want to tell it, as long as you do it right. And so, so it doesn't matter, I guess, in that sense how, but I'm saying you can always break the rules, right? So it's not like it has to be a certain way. But in this case, I thought it would have been helpful if it was. And so I guess that's just part of my review. So anyway, so I want to thank the cast, and I want to thank you, the listener, for tuning in. And I also hope that, I hope you found this enjoyable. And if anything, make a comment and tell us, give us a like, and give me a like, I guess, to this video. And then, maybe we can do more analyses like these, right? Analysis. I've done a couple of these, so there are other reviews up. And, so what do you all think? And, tell me what you thought, or, whatever. So you guys, so thank you for watching.